Let's take a look at the Konjunktiv 2. Ironically, when you learn German, you start with Konjunktiv 2, and Konjunktiv 1 they put in B1, in B2, which I don't understand, because you will not need it for any exam. Really not. Ever. Unless your school teacher, you're in some weird school that says you need this. But in official exams that I've seen, they never have any specific exercises, and it never matters whether you identify it even as conjunctive. As long as you understand the verb, you get the message, enjoy your, save your time, save your stress. Yeah. So you can really lean back and trust me here. If you lose your exam because you made a mistake with Konjunktiv 1, I pay your exam. Yeah, you can take my word for it. Now, Konjunktiv 2. Let's start with the use cases and then to the forms, a bit different, because we just talked about reported speech. I told you if Konjunktiv 1 looks like the basic present form, then you don't use it. You use Konjunktiv 2. Quick overview. Peter talks to Mary. And this time Peter tells you something about Paul. Paul is the one who likes to drive cars. It's a direct speech. Yeah, you can see that with the, how do you call these again? Anführungszeichen in German. So Mary goes to Paul and says, hey, Peter says you like to drive cars. And you see here the fahrest, and the E gives you away. That's weird, and there is no umlaut because it should be du fährst gern Auto. So she is using the Konjunktiv 1 to express neutrality. Now, we said we don't use the do form of the Konjunktiv 1, so we can also use the strong form of the Konjunktiv 2, which you saw in the beginning and which I also said you will not use. I just put them in a row. Du führest gern Auto. You see fuhr, that must be the past. And yeah, it's basically the same meaning. And what you do, you don't use any of these. You use the simple form. Peter says you would like to drive cars. It's a bit weird. The translation doesn't really work that well. That's a literal translation. So Peter says you like to drive cars in English. Yeah, but in German we would say you would like to drive cars. It's tricky. Nevertheless, you get the message. Let's take a look at other use cases. Hey Shakir, this lesson is roughly A2, but if you're a beginner, just stick and relax, see what you get from it. There's always something you can get from the logic I share with you. Yeah, this is, the content is one thing, but look at the meta level, which is how things are being explained, how things are understood, and how things work. You can benefit from this if you relax. You don't have to remember anything here. You will understand certain things. Yeah, so enjoy. So if someone makes a polite request, and you will also see things from A1 here soon. Würdest du bitte das Fenster zumachen? Yeah, I'll give you a couple of seconds to digest that. Would you please the window, Fenster, French people know fenêtre, which is the same word, zumachen. Zu means close in this context. Machen, make, close. So would you close the window, please? So it's a polite request, and the Würde allows you to be polite. Well, you could also say that in a rough language, like, würdest du bitte das Fenster zumachen? And you get from my tone that that's not polite at all. Yeah, I'm pretty annoyed. So it's rather the tone that makes the difference, but in written form, and if you say with a smile, this is the polite form. Yeah. Be careful with the like, Jeff. It's not what you like. There's no like in here. Yeah, there's only please. The like we get to in a few minutes. Next request, as you see, you use would and infinitive. Würdet ihr bitte mitkommen, just to give you a couple of forms. We look at the forms in detail in a minute. Would you, two? Ihr is always more than one person, could be 2 or 2,000 people. Please come with me. And you see the würde, if it's in the beginning, initiates a question, like any other verb, but pushes the second verb. There's always 2 verbs with würde. The second verb to the very end. Yeah? It's the same like can. Could you come with me? Würden Sie mir bitte zuhören? The capital Z, you all know, hopefully. If not, you will get to know it. Capital Z is very important if you talk to people that you are not friends with, let's say. Yeah. So you don't have to use the Z with me. We talk on a level that is equal. So würden Sie mir bitte zuhören? And if you don't understand zuhören, you very likely understand hören. Cut the E-N and you have her. And just play around. What vowels fit inside? Her, here we are. So hören. Could you please listen? Yeah. Or could you please hear? And what form of hearing is between people that's listening? Would you please listen to me, sir? Or madam? Yeah. Last, I think there's 4 use cases, but wishes are another thing. Now we come to the liking, because I would like to do something means I have a wish. Ich würde jetzt gern gehen. So let's say you had a boring party or a boring dinner and you tell your partner, hey, really, ich würde jetzt gern gehen. And you have the would, I would go, but the difference now is I would go. Now you have the gern here, and you will hear that a lot. And the gern you find in form of the like. Gern means like, but it's not a verb like in English. It's not I like French fries. It's not like that. Yeah. The gern cannot be used as a verb and it never changes. So it's again would plus infinitive, but with gern. And as you can see at this little E at the end of gern, it's either gern or gerne. And in 99% of the cases, it absolutely does not matter which one you use, gern or gerne. The Germans, like any other language, folks on this planet, they like to shorten things. Yeah. So gerne was the origin, very likely. I'm not sure whether it was from the beginning short, and over time people lose interest in pronouncing long words, so it becomes gern, but gerne is still used here and there. I would motivate you to use gern. It's more comfortable, because sometimes in a response to someone you say gern geschehen, so it happened with pleasure, and you wouldn't say gerne geschehen. Yeah, so that's the only case I can think of where it matters whether you use gern or gerne, but in other cases it doesn't matter. The modal verbs come later. Otherwise, remind me that I make an example. Yeah. Würde, just more polite than using möchte. We come to möchte as well. Here is a title of a song. You should Google that at one point. Beautiful song. Ich wollt, ich wär ein Huhn. So you see there's no würde in here, and it's nevertheless Konjunktiv 2. And translated, that means I wish I was a hen. Could also be a chicken. Yeah, Huhn literally is a hen, but it's also used for chicken. So you see the where here is I was, and literally that means would be, which I show you later. This is the strong form. The strong form you use with modal verbs and with to be. Here you have them. And of course with to have. Ich wollte, ich hätte mehr Zeit. Just needed an example for had. Yeah. So you don't find a gerne in B and C. Any idea why? Just to answer Mikkel's question, you can think of my question. Because I don't think it's closer to a literal translation, because würde is not translated as would be. Gern in my translation, or the best translation for gern that I find is with pleasure. So I would go now with pleasure. Yeah, it's a bit odd, but it's still nice. Yeah. So I wished I had, sorry. So wollte, what does wollte mean? I wished, I wanted, literally. I wanted I had more time, or so if you say I want, you don't have to add like to it. I want to like, that doesn't really work. So if you have I wanted, you don't need the gern. If I killed the ich wollte in B and C, I could say ich wäre gern ein Huhn. Or in C, ich hätte gern mehr Zeit. So this is why there is no gern here, but it's still kind of present. Last example with a modal verb. Ich könnte stundenlang so weiterreden. I could go on talking like this for hours. The talking is the reden. And here you have könnte. So you see that also works for what we call the modal verbs. Modal verbs are 6 verbs that help you to express modalities. And that's a different topic, but I go into this in a minute. Last one, and if you are an English native speaker, this actually might kill you because it's so simple in German. Hypothetical situations of the past, present, or the future. Wenn ich früher aufgewacht wäre, dann. And the done you see here is optional. We actually rarely use that. If I woke up earlier, then, yeah, or if I had woken up earlier, if I woke up earlier, if I had woken up earlier. Forgive my English, I'm not a translator, but you get the idea here. So this is a possibility because you didn't wake up earlier. So if you see here the wäre, it means if I would have woken up earlier is the best translation. Yeah. If only I had woken up earlier. So the English is really a mess, but in German it simply means, okay, wäre means it's not reality. It is something that is a theory. And the wenn, the if gives it away with the Konjunktiv 2. Let's take a look at this. Can you figure this out before I give the translation, which possibly also could be better? And in the meantime, Quartis, we don't use wünschte, ich wünschte. You could say ich wünschte, ich wäre ein Huhn, sure. But wünschen is very sophisticated. We don't really use that. You could use that, but I would rather say ich wollte. Yeah? No, it's not. Yeah, so wünschte is not. It's weird German. You might learn that in some weird old books, but I've never said that myself in 48 years, nor have I heard anyone. Ich wünschte. Yeah, unless it's someone very dramatic or it's in a theater play. So wenn ich mehr Sport gemacht hätte, sorry, before I had a different example, if I had done more sports, and literally if I would have done more sports, then yeah, I wouldn't have had time to learn German. 2 more examples. Wenn ich 10 Jahre jünger wäre, and you see the hätte gives away that that person, that I, didn't do more sports. The same with see. The wäre is clearly identified as conjunctive, so that didn't happen. And the wenn is another indicator for this hypothetical nature of this thing. If I were 10 years younger. Wenn ich nächstes Jahr wählen könnte, wählen is an interesting word. It has 2 meanings. Yeah. Yeah, in this question we can take a look at later. Yeah. Wenn ich nächstes Jahr wählen könnte, so if I could, könnte is easily translatable as could, vote next year. Wählen could mean to choose, but voting is kind of choosing. So that's the same. Remind me of that question, why not als? Yeah, I can explain that later, but it doesn't fit here. Good. So all these 4 things, you don't really have to go through this in your head when you see this. When you see an Konjunktiv 2, which hopefully you can easily identify after today or with a few minutes of practice, then you know, okay, there is something that is rather hypothetical, that's rather not reality. Yeah. And the when is a different topic that you will also learn in another lesson. So another more interesting or as interesting question is why not als is why not wann? If you don't know the difference between when and wann, put it on your list to look up tonight. This is the most important differentiation. Yeah. And it's very simple. Look at 5 examples for when in the internet and 5 examples for wann, and sit in front of these 10 examples until it rings a bell. And if after half an hour it still doesn't ring a bell, take a break, have a nice dinner, and try again half an hour. You get that. Look at these and see what is the difference. You can do that. Yeah? The recording will be shared tomorrow within 24 hours. And yes, you can use it for regrets. Yeah, I didn't add that here. If only, I said before as an example, but I didn't put it as a special category. Again, you don't need to differentiate between these 4 or 5 use cases. It's basically very simple. It's not as complicated as in English at all.